We got enough people. So begins our journey into parts 31 through 40 of I Am That. I don't know if we should persevere through the whole book or what. I don't know how everybody's feeling. I don't think it's a bad book by any means. But personally, I'm having a little, I don't want to call it difficulty. It's a flavor of boredom.
I agree with this. For me,
Yeah.
it's like it's not that the things in the book are bad content, but it's not organized well, so it doesn't make for a good read.
It's not a good read. Yeah.
And it's also always, pretty much always the same.
Yeah. And so, like, the things it's saying in and of themselves, good, solid content. I'm fascinated by some of it. Overall, I'm getting a little bored of reading it.
Right.
I think that's fair.
I agree, yeah.
So, if no one has any oppositions, this might be our last week of this book. If no one has any objections,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to start off with that before we got talking. Of hey, I think it's time to go ahead and end the book. I think, if that's okay. All right. Cool beans. So, I don't know why, but I decided this whole section I would highlight everything in pink. So that's what I did. And I always enjoy a bit of introduction to vocabulary words from other languages. So I highlighted a couple of those. The fourth state, Turiya,
Yeah.
is a state of pure witnessing. That was kind of fun. I thought it was interesting. I was like, there's no such thing as compromise in yoga.
Wow.
And I was like, that's such a rough statement about yoga, because I've never thought about yoga like that.
Yeah, same.
It was interesting because I used to do it more regularly, but I do yoga as one of the few exercises my sad, pathetic body can handle.
Well, now keep in mind, yoga isn't just the asanas or the poses.
Right.
There's also a whole philosophy and like inner practice as well.
Yeah, but
It's the whole lifestyle, really. And
that's fair.
yeah, and then it makes sense again when he says there's no compromise, because really, when you are doing the quote unquote full yoga, it's really a lifestyle.
Those are very good points you guys have made. Thank you. Much better than my limited thought process on the matter. I thought this was a good little point, that giving names to mental states is good only for expressing your approval or disapproval. I thought that was a good little bit where he was responding to the questioner about, it seemed like the questioner was like, I'm trying to understand why I do things that I do. And Maharaj is just like, doesn't matter what you call them. Resolutely remind yourself that you are not the mind and that its problems are not yours. I did a lot of skipping over in these sections, I think, as a byproduct of my general boredom. And more than I have done in the past, my brain just looked for like little tiddlywinks that I thought were interesting, and then very much skimmed the surface of what was being said, and so I apologize for that.
That's fine.
I do feel like he focused a lot on the use of the word fear, and in these sections, he refers to a lot of to fear frequently. Here he says your past, your future, your desires and fears all have their roots in the world. It's kind of an offhand comment, but in later parts, there's a couple sections where he really like refers to your fear as a form of ignorance. I thought that was true. Yep. Fear and greed cause the misuse of the mind. I didn't highlight that, but that's another instance of fear being used. You guys should stop and talk any moment you want. I'm just going to skim my notes here until... If you want to know your true nature, you must have yourself in mind all the time until the secret of your being stands revealed. There's a lot of good one-liners in this entire book that I feel like if you wanted to juxtapose them into like a comic book scene where people are fighting, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, this one was interesting. The moment I create an institution, I become its prisoner. As a matter of fact, I am available to all. Common roof and food will not make people more welcome. Living near does not mean breathing the same air. It means trusting and obeying, not letting the good intentions of the teacher go to waste. I liked this thought process. It connected to some other ones I'd had not too long ago. For me, I felt a lot of relevance here in this section. Not so much with the guru, but that this emphasis that physical proximity isn't what defines closeness, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Do some traditional thought processes here of that yesterday is but a memory and we can only live in the present is how I'm going to summarize this little tiddlywink. I liked this sentence. I cannot tell what I am because words can describe only what I am not. This is yet another sentence that I feel like would be fun to say in battle against the supervillain or as the supervillain. Either one. Ah! My notes. They're gone. Oh well. Does anybody have any thoughts so far? We all digging it?
I have thoughts, but my brain won't let me speak.
Okay, if your brain decides to let you speak, you feel free to do it at any moment, okay? The question, who I am, has no answer. No experience can answer it, for the self is beyond experience. Still, the question, who am I, must be of some use. It has no answer, says Maharaj. And therefore helps to go beyond consciousness. The end. So a lot of that conversation of the I am that sort of conversation of that really harkens, I think, to the title of the book overall. A lot of these little segments kind of connect to that idea. And then they get into some discussion about helping people. Here, as we noticed before, like these big gaps probably mean a change in time or conversation entirely. And so suddenly the questioner is like, let us come back to the man in need of help. He comes to you. I feel like he kept presenting an idea to Maharaj and is like, guy, I want you to answer this question. Maharaj is just finally answering it. There's nothing fanciful about it. I cannot help some and refuse others. All who come are helped, for such is the law. And so I find that it's an interesting response to, like I said, there's almost no preamble to it. He must have presented a man of like poor morality or something.
I seem to remember that a man in search of need or in search of help was mentioned before that, but I could be wrong.
It's entirely possible. Like I said, my brain ended up skimming more than I had wanted to when I originally read this, so I feel a little bad about that. So I don't remember everything that I looked over.
So, this is speaking on something pretty significant. Why must he come here to get advice? Can't he get it from within?
Right.
He will not listen. The mind is turned outward. But in fact, all experience is in the mind, and even coming to me and getting help is all within himself.
Mm-hmm.
So this is speaking on what he mentioned earlier about experience, um, just all happening in the mind, and the self being beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
There is the reason he keeps bringing this up is because there's so much, um, I guess, importance put on actions and thoughts and all of these things that we try to use to understand better who we are. But as he said as well, all of these things can only show you what we are not,
Yeah.
because we are not experiences, we are not thoughts. Um, but they can be useful in illustrating that that's not what we are. So they're not pointless, they're just frequently misleading.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, at some point they become obsolete, or they will only take you so far.
right. Once you get the answer, you don't have to keep asking the question, kind of a thing.
Nice.
But
I yeah.
it's just interesting because most uh I'm getting distracted by the feedback, sorry. Um
Sorry.
Is there feedback again?
yeah, Sam's mic is super powerful.
Oh,
Um
I thought you meant
nope.
my stream was
No, it's not your
echoing.
stream.
Okay.
The thought has gone.
I'm
It's
sorry.
fine.
I really appreciate your
It's-
wording though on that, and I feel like you did a good job of clarifying some of the jumble that was in my mind. So thank you.
I hesitate to speak sometimes because I feel like I've already said these things and this is saying all of these things and I don't want to be redundant. But
I find this entire book a little redundant.
right?
It's not like I said before though. It's a good book. It's got good stuff.
But I
But
promised you Nisagadatta also finds it redundant
uh-huh.
because this man is saying these things over and over and over and these people aren't hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like why are you still asking me where you can find yourself? You're right here.
Yeah.
This is you. This is me. This experience, this conversation we're having is you talking to yourself right now. But like I guess to be able to understand that beyond just an abstraction is quite difficult
Mm-hmm.
because you can have this fanciful idea of, oh, we're all one, but like not understand what that means, not
Yeah, what
understand. Go ahead.
uh, thinking and experiencing, it's two different things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's just there has to be this thing that clicks where you finally recognize, oh, I'm full of shit, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't even mean that in like a degrading way. It's just that's what ignorance is. That's what the whole problem is that you don't recognize what's really happening because you're so distracted by the shiny ideas and the loud experiences, and you think, oh, well, surely this is what's real. And in a way, it is real, but in a very different way,
It
it's
isn't.
it's not at all.
The two layers of reality, so to speak, or the two layers of truth.
Yeah, right here. The I am is immovable, unshakable, independent. What you call the universe, nature, is my spontaneous creativity. So it's a recognition that I am existence. I'm not just this body mind. I'm not just Max. That's the form. That's not me. I move through this form. And, when I say it out loud, people can grasp that, but it's not, it's so infrequently inwardly seen. I guess that's why enlightenment is rare. But it's also immediate. It's so available because everyone sees what they're seeing, you know? Like, I'm not sure if I'm making sense. I'm still awake or waking up.
I don't know. You made sense to me. I was like,
Yeah.
yes, I get it. I I got it
Well, that's good.
for the most
At
part.
least my words are connecting into thoughts that have meaning.
They do. They had meaning. Ah, here we are. Is more fear talk. It is ignorance of yourself that makes you afraid and also unaware that you are afraid. Don't try not to be afraid. Break down the wall of ignorance first. And the happiness of being absolutely free is beyond description. On the other hand, he who is afraid of freedom cannot die. And I didn't understand that sentence.
He was afraid.
He who is afraid of freedom cannot die.
So,
I think what he's referring to is what he said earlier, that you are uh, dying before your body dies, so to speak. So, in order to become free, you have to quote unquote die.
Ah,
But and then you are free. But uh, yeah, as long as you are afraid
that makes sense.
of that freedom, yeah, you cannot die to the world, so to speak.
right, it's dying in the sense of the final extinguishing. The release from the wheel of samsara. The death of ego allows the actual living of self. But enlightenment is exactly the feeling of death to the ego because it says my identity is gone. I, as I have always known myself, am dead. But
Or
this,
rather,
go
excuse
ahead.
me, or rather, I never existed in the first place.
Exactly, exactly. I suppose then the idea of myself is dead.
Yeah, or the identification with the idea.
Right. But it feels just the same experientially, and that's terrifying. But he who is afraid of freedom cannot die. So if you believe this fear, if you let the ego say, no, no, don't do that, it's scary. Well, then the ego lives. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
You sound unsure, Des.
Yes. I am Des. Striving too is a form of restlessness, which I thought was pretty straightforward. I was like, yep, that makes sense. Yep. I feel like that comes up a lot as a thought process in a lot of the books we've read. Then we get some talk about Vyakti and Vyakta. And Avyakta. Beyond the self lies the unmanifested, the causeless cause of everything.
Huh.
I think I hear my cat at the door. I'll be right back. Milo! Good kitty! Alright. You cannot be yourself for some reason. You are yourself and no reason is needed. That sounds
are what you
related
are.
to what Max was saying actually earlier. Reminds me a bit of what you were saying. Nom, nom, nom.
All right, there's no need for justification, and part of what we, I suppose, use for justification are all of our identifying markers, personality, you know, all of our attachments. You don't need a reason to be who you are. You don't need these attachments to exist. You don't need to define yourself through your history or preferences or fears. But that's what we know. That's what we're taught to do. That's how we distinguish ourselves from each other, just because we think our form is ourself. But it's pretty sporadic. It's not indicative. It's kind of haphazard, and to identify with something that's pretty by chance is in many ways self-diminishing.
I was very distracted by Tess's doodle, but
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sure you made
I'm
it.
sure you said something real good, Max.
Yeah, yeah, hella wise or something.
You're real wise. I could have been enlightened if I'd been listening. I'm kidding.
Damn, that was your chance. You
That
missed
was
it.
my chance. I failed. Let's see what else is going on here. A man who no longer thinks in terms of loss and gain is the truly non-violent man, for he is beyond all conflict. I thought that was good advice, mostly.
I try to do this when I play Tekken.
Yeah.
I lose a lot, and I'm just like, yeah, that was good. I learned something. You know. But a few years ago, I would get hella mad.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why didn't I do better?
I personally have a rule against playing with certain people anymore in games because they take it way too seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people cannot lose. Yeah.
I can't play video games with you. I'm sorry. You get mad, and I'm just here to have a good time.
I like to lose because I learn from it. It's not actually a loss. I'm still getting something out of it.
I just embrace chaos.
That's fair. That's an equally relevant method.
I'm sorry. Did you say Molotov your teammates? I'm here. Whoosh.
Right. I've got one, as chance would have it.
We build castles in the air hoping for endless pleasure, which we call happiness. It is all misunderstanding and misuse. Wake up, go beyond, live really. Momentary relief from pain we call pleasure was the first part of that sentence.
That's a good sentence, yeah.
I think it's a very good sentence. Hi. Yeah, I think it's real solid. This little section here I'm a fan of. Overall, it felt like some good little advice to come in with, and It's good. Simply look at whatever happens and know that you are beyond it. Does it mean I should abstain from doing anything? You cannot. What goes on must go on. If you stop suddenly, you will crash.
Okay, so the simplicity of this teaching is, I think, what deceives most people.
Mm-hmm.
But look at whatever happens and know that you are beyond it. It's the same thing as what I used to say a lot of, like, can a knife cut itself?
Yeah.
Can fire burn itself? Well, then can the observer observe themselves? No. The answer is always no, unless I guess you're like a lobster and you have those eye stalks or whatever.
Ooh. Lobsters
But even
actually
then,
can't see out of their eye stalks. They use their pee and pheromones to see, but that was unnecessary information. I should stop talking.
no, that'll prevent me making that comparison in the future. But being able to see what you're seeing is implicit evidence that you aren't what you see,
Yeah.
Yeah.
including your feelings and fears and
Mm-hmm.
any of it.
Right.
It's still witnessed. I guess the trick is just knowing not to get wrapped up in it like it's serious.
Mm-hmm. Like Tekken.
Right. Who cares?
Good. Thank you, Max. That's a good little catch on your part. I like that. Stand without desire and fear. Relinquishing all control and all responsibility. What madness! Yes, divine madness. This conversation.
I do like how sassy some of the questioners get.
Yeah.
They get really annoyed with them. Yeah.
Right.
Abandon all conceptualization and stay silent and attentive. Be earnest about it and all will be well with you. This is a good little tiddlywink. We'll put a little flower here to memorialize it. There you go.
Good.
All right. Unready means afraid. You are afraid of what you are. Your destination is the whole, but you are afraid that you will lose your identity. I think that actually, so of the points that come out of this particular section of parts, this is a valid one for reflection as far as when you think about trying to release your attachment to things. I think there's always a little bit of fear, at least on my part, keeping me grasping at the release of that attachment, of like what happens if I do finally like release all sense of identity and attachment to this person I call Des. You know what I mean?
I
Actually,
do very much.
I was thinking the very same thing just before book club. Like, I was thinking, am I really ready to stop being an individual, having all these adventures? Yeah, I'm not sure I am.
Well, see, that's part of the trick. Even when you let go, you still have the adventures. You just know that it's not. You know the difference between the character and the actor then. Does that make sense? You're
Oh
still in
yeah,
the play. You're still reading your lines, but you aren't believing yourself when you cry. You know?
Do you think life becomes like playing a video game then?
In a way, but it's like the best, most immersive video game.
Mm-hmm.
So that, like with Tekken, if you lose, that's okay. sometimes you don't win,
Mm-hmm.
but that's fine too, because you're still having a good time underneath all of it with the experience itself. So yeah, like you highlighted with the title, pleasure isn't the goal, because pleasure and pain are inextricably tied. You have to have both. But that's what makes there's so much like richness of experience. That's what makes you have the idea that there is something at stake. Otherwise, it's boring.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also still just a game.
Yeah.
And the fear of letting go, um, being afraid to find out, like you asked, what happens when I do this? But you asked it from the framework of fear
Mm-hmm.
rather than curiosity. You can find out what happens. And here's the best part. If you let go of your identity and you don't like it, you can make another one. You can you
Yeah.
can make a new attachment and get all sucked up back in there.
Yeah, I can do it all again.
Yeah, you this isn't a one and done situation, but you'll always know way in the back that you're making this up now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine because now you have more creative control. You can choose what pains actually mean something to you and which ones you're only pretending to feel.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't actually make anything less rich. If anything, it brings a greater depth to reality because you're not stuck in this little mindset of, oh, I'm just Des. You can say, I choose to be Des. And that has so much power.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Powerful deaths. Uh
That's right.
that was the whole thing you were trying to go for, right? Was how powerful I am
You
now.
got it. You
Perfect.
fully understood.
Excellent. I did it. No, on the inside though, I was reflecting about some of the irony of as I'm absorbing what you're saying, and I think you worded it very well, Max. I know you're a little like, is my
I'm
brain
still
too
a little
jumbly?
sleepy right now, yeah.
But no, that was very well worded, and it made me reflect a lot on the irony of how I'm often trying to get my students to do something similar in terms of their fear of art and creating.
Mm,
Of
yeah.
I'm trying to get them to let go of this idea of being a bad artist, of this identity they have in their mind of like what it means to be a good artist, and if they can just let go of that, then they can make freely and just enjoy the process. And I was just beginning to see some parallels is all.
Good. That's very good because I think a big part of the problem with, you know, even when I use good words, there's a lack of context,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like intellectually, I guess you can understand it, but if you don't actually connect the dots and see intuitively what I'm getting at, it's not going to mean much. It'll sound good, but it won't actually move anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But that's very good, making those connections because you already know what I'm saying. It's just you have forgotten how to hear it, perhaps.
Yeah. Isn't that always the
That's why it's good that you're telling yourself. That's why that introspection is necessary. That's why in this book it says the greatest teacher is within. Just like Maharaj said, I'm trying to bring you over to my side, but you aren't listening. So then look inward, hear what you are saying to yourself.
yes. To jump thoughts as we move forward in this little section. Because I think that this particular little thought process we just went on is something I could probably spend a lot of time on. but we should probably shouldn't spend all day on that part. It is a burden. Body means burden. Sensations, desires, thoughts. These are all burdens. All consciousness is of conflict.
I mean, that's just duality,
Yeah.
baby.
Babies, duality. What the mind created, the mind must destroy. Or realize that there is no desire outside of the mind and stay out. This seemed connected to some things we discussed earlier. I skipped on this one a little. Whatever you do for the sake of truth will take you to truth. I think that's a good little bit. But if you are shallow and impatient, not earnest enough to look and wait, you are like a child crying for the moon.
I love that.
I thought that was really good. I felt like that was also a little bit of what you were saying. Just a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good bit.
It's always amusing to find that the stuff I'm talking about, someone else has said like 50 or 100 or 1,000 years ago.
I mean, isn't that this whole process, though? We're constantly, as humans, rediscovering the same thoughts over and over again. We're just like, huh, I could be enlightened right now. Huh.
Yeah. Humanity is super inefficient in that each
Really?
generation has to discover, has to make their own mistakes
To do it
over and over
again.
again.
It's fine. I'll find a better wheel.
I don't need your wheel. I'm gonna make my own.
This one's hyper round.
Hyper round, you say? I'll buy it.
Yeah. Give me the thing. Take my money.
Take my money. Give me the hyper round wheel. Why keep the reflection only in the focus of consciousness? Why not the real itself? Like water is shaped by the container, so is everything determined by conditions. As water remains water regardless of the vessel, as light remains itself regardless of the colors it brings out, so does the real remain real regardless of conditions in which it is reflected. Why keep the reflection only in the focus of consciousness? Why not the real itself? So that's the full thought process there. I thought that
This
was
is speaking on interdependent arising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Welcome all that comes with a glad and thankful heart, and love all creatures. This too will take you to yourself. I thought that was cute. In the same way I thought that one part way above was real cute, where it was just like, oh, what a nice little tiddlywink of advice. You just keep that in your pocket. That one's a good one. Like, put that on a sticker and slap it on your laptop. Then we get into some Atma a little bit, just for a moment. And Janani? Nani?
I think it's pronounced Gianni.
Is it
but,
Gianni? I'm so bad at this. Apparently had no thoughts except highlighting that with 40, personally. The gospel of self-realization once heard will never be forgotten. Like a seed left in the ground, it will wait for the right season and sprout and grow into a mighty tree. I think most philosophies or thoughts or religions all fall back on this seed analogy. I hear it quite a bit. Is this idea of like kind of not pre-gaming. Pre-gaming's a different idea. It's just preparing yourself. Like, maybe I'm not ready right now, but I could be ready in a few years. And so you plant the seed in hopes that maybe later you figure it out. I am not afraid of death because I am not afraid of life. I live a happy life and shall die a happy death. Misery is to be born, not to die. All depends on how you look at it. There you go. Any thoughts on this section?
Go back up a little. You imagine that without cause there can be no happiness. To me, dependence on anything for happiness is utter misery.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Pleasure and pain have causes, while my state is my own.
I think that harkens back to the video game analogy we were making of like when you were saying that you get to decide what you're actually feeling versus pretending to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thoughts, anybody?
There was a section fairly close to the beginning, which we skipped over, which I found very interesting, where he said that you can even be a sinner, but if you're earnest in your sinning, that even that will take you to your
Ooh.
goal. Let me check real quick if I can find it again. It was pretty close to the beginning, I think. You are free now.
How strangely does your mind work? You're strange, not me. I'm normal. I'm sane. See things as they are, and therefore I'm not afraid of them. But you are afraid of reality. I realize I agree with him at the same time that I think that's hilarious. Anyway.
I found the section again.
Yeah.
So basically, if you want to sin, sin wholeheartedly and openly. Sins too have their lessons to teach the earnest sinner as virtues, the earnest saint. It is the mixing up the two that is so disastrous. Nothing can block you so effective as compromise. I think that was in the section where he said that yoga is
the yoga
doesn't
one.
do compromise, or maybe not. But anyway, it continues.
Cool beans.
Nothing can block you so effectively as compromise, for it shows lack of earnestness, without which nothing can be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's there are no page numbers. That is bad. Yeah, but that was an interesting thought. It's right there in chapter 31.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yep. Nice.
This reminds me of a different quote, which is, "Let the fool persist in folly, and he shall become wise." All you need to do is mess up enough times to learn how to stop messing up. And so, yeah, sins too have their lessons to teach. The earnest sinner, someone who really gets in there. If you're gonna do it, don't don't participate in half measures. Get your whole ass in there. Make sure you understand the depth of what you're doing so that you can learn from it. Because really, all experience is an opportunity for learning and I suppose enjoying. But if it's all lived through fear and, you know, sort of walking on eggshells, you're too busy being cautious to understand what the lesson is when things happen. So
Do you know
you
what
want
this
to
reminds
go-
me of?
Go ahead.
The Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
But not the Big Lebowski himself. His friend.
The John Goodman character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Big
That's-
Lebowski is lauded as one of the best Zen films.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, guys. Any more thoughts going on in your little heads?
Usually not.
Perfect. Congratulations, everybody. We're enlightened. We did it.
We did
Once
it.
again,
Yay. I will put up a vote soon after I find some books that look interesting. Hopefully a little more engaging.
we could do the Kybalion. As I said, I've just recently watched it on YouTube, and it's fairly short as well. So maybe something we could slip in there.
I've
The
been curious about that.
Kybalion, you say?
Hmm.
Kybalion.
I have found a PDF almost immediately. The Hermetic Philosophy of Ancient Egypt and Greece?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I found it. There was a PDF super easy to find.
Supposedly, it was even beyond, even earlier than Egypt, because Hermes, who was the great teacher of that, supposedly, well, he showed up in Egypt in the earliest days of Egypt. So it's possibly even so. It's supposedly the teaching is even older.
Interesting.
But
Well, it could be a
that's-
fun read, if nothing else, like something interesting and different.
I mean, some it definitely has some new aspects, like the seven concepts of reality. But yeah, it also speaks about what we have heard over and over again about the source of it all, the undifferentiated,
Wrong one.
whatever you want to call it. Yeah, and as I said, it's pretty short, so we will be through it fairly quickly.
Okay. I wouldn't be opposed trying it out.
Yeah.
There we go. Did that. Okay. Well, go team.